Well, good morning, good evening. I've been saying that all evening. Good morning, good morning.
It's all good.
There is no time, right? So it doesn't matter. Let's see, what do I press? Got it? Okay. Hello, and out there in e-world land. That is such an appropriate song for what I'm talking about this evening. And I have a metaphor story that I wrote decades ago, actually, back in the 90s, I think. It seems that there was this little caterpillar who decided it was time to spin his own sleeping bag, and he crawled inside of it, zipped it all up, and went to sleep. After a while, he woke up and started crawling around in his sleeping bag and decided he was a little tight in there. So he pulled out of his cocoon and he was looking at the world, the newness of the world, the beauty of the world around him. And as he snuggled out, he kind of rested on a rock and he went, "Oh my goodness, I have wings." Like, where did those come from, right? I've got wings. And by the way, from here on out, whenever I say, wait a minute, you all say, "I've got wings." Okay? So let me hear it. Wait a minute.
I've got wings.
There we go. I've got wings. Good, good. Audience participation is strong tonight. So the little fella, once his wings are dry, he kind of tucks them back behind him and he starts walking through the garden, right? And he comes to a ditch and he says, "Oh my goodness, it's going to take me so long to crawl down and across and up the other side of that ditch." And he says, "Wait a minute.
I have wings.
Hey, come on. Wait a minute. I've got wings. Yes, I've got wings." So he gets his wings out and he flutters across the ditch and he lands on the other side and he's just so proud of himself. And he tucks his wings behind him and he starts walking along the other side. And then he comes to some steps and he looks up at those steps and he thinks, "Oh man, that's gonna take a while." And then he says, "Wait a minute, I got wings." So he opens his wings and he flutters to the first step, and then he flutters to the second step, and he flutters to the third step, and he's on his way again. He tucks his wings behind him and he keeps walking. Comes to a sunflower in the garden. And he starts to come up, he walks up the side and out onto a leaf. And he looks up and he walks back up and he walks on the second leaf and he looks up and he says, "What am I doing? Wait a minute. I've got wings." And so he flutters up from leaf to leaf to leaf till he gets to the top, and he comes over the top and he sees the most beautiful butterfly that he has ever seen in his life. And he puts his wings out and he says, "You see, I'm a butterfly too." And the other butterfly looks at him unimpressed and says, "You may have the body of a butterfly, but you've still got the mind of a caterpillar." We all have the spiritual body of a butterfly. But unless we choose to live there in our consciousness, we're going to be like this little butterfly that keeps walking everywhere he goes. And every once in a while, when he's got a problem, he remembers, "Oh yeah, I've got wings. I can go and do my meditation, my spiritual, what do we call it? The spiritual mind practice." Anyway, you sit in, you meditate, and you say, "Okay, God, I affirm that," right? That's finally getting around to using your wings, but what about 24/7? So if we look at this metaphor more closely, you realize that this is an absolute paradigm shift from the caterpillar to the butterfly world that the little caterpillar didn't quite make when he came out of his sleeping bag. The paradigm shift. Think about the world of the caterpillar. The caterpillar is on a leaf, and he only sees the leaf, maybe the leaf around him, but that's all he can see. And he starts to consume the leaf. That's his job, right? And he eats and he eats and he eats until the leaf is destroyed. And then he crawls off to another leaf and does the same thing. That's why so often we try to get rid of little caterpillars and moth larvae, because they're destroying our bushes. Everywhere he is, and he has weight. That's why he didn't want to get up in that little flying contraption, because did you see those wings? They're so light, and think of how heavy I am. And the more he eats, the heavier he gets. The caterpillar is not only heavy, but it destroys the environment as it goes. It eats the leaf, and then it eats the next leaf, and it eats the next leaf. So the caterpillar is a consumer. He's a consumer. It never leaves the tangible world. It's always focused entirely on the leaves and the things he can eat around him. It's always focused here, right in front of him, outside of himself. And he's vulnerable. He can easily be eaten by birds, or if he gets onto a pavement, he can be squished by a car, a bicycle, a person, right? So a caterpillar world is very slow, heavy, down to the ground. And we, in our own little world, are constantly bombarded with caterpillar thinking. Buy this, you'll be happy. Wear this makeup or wear this aftershave, and that girl of your dreams will fall in love with you. And then you'll be happy. Yeah, right? You have $1 billion business on makeup alone, and aftershave and underarm deodorant, all that stuff. We want to be attractive to other people because we feel like our happiness is dependent on someone else approving of us, on someone else loving us. Then we can get a sense of belonging. Or they tell us something to make us angry so that we'll vote for them. This isn't just tangible items, it's ideas too. Well, everything that is in this world, this caterpillar world that comes to us, the underlying message is you can't be happy on your own within yourself. You have to have something out there to make you happy, right? And what is constantly implied that way is that unless we go outside ourselves, we will be lonely, afraid, depressed. That there's nothing in here of value, that everything of value is out there. Spend money and you might find happiness. So we become a consumer society, right? But what are we consuming? We're really consuming novelty. Aside from what you get at the grocery store, it's the latest car, the latest home improvements, the latest clothing, jewelry, hairdos, it's the novelty. I was listening to a talk today that said even some marriages break up, not because they're unhappy with each other, but because they think they might be happier with somebody else. The newness. But are we happy? Are we satisfied? The novelist Anne Nin, if you're French, said, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk to bloom. You know, eventually that caterpillar world just becomes too small. We realize that all the consuming in the world of everything out there that we think might bring us happiness is not bringing us happiness. We have that momentary, oh, wow, that's so cool. And you walk home from the store and you have this new whatever, new tool, new shirt, new whatever. And you have that momentary, and then it becomes old hat and you're off for the next newness that will bring you that little jolt. It's not permanent happiness. So the second phase then is the cocoon phase. It's that going within. It's that profound rest from all the worries, the tensions of the caterpillar world. It's also a time when that caterpillar says, I've done everything I can. God, help. I'm going to get in my little cocoon and I'm going to trust that you know what you're doing and I'm going to let you do it. And it goes to sleep. Or somehow it transforms in there to a totally different being. Comes out with a totally new body, but a brand new consciousness, right? A brand new consciousness. It is only through that total release to God to say, okay, God, you know better than I do with my caterpillar brain. What is my destiny? I turn myself over to that and releasing it completely, releasing control. So then we emerge, the third phase, we emerge to what appears to be the same world. When he comes out of his cocoon, he's still on a leaf, right? And that leaf is either on a tree or it's a bush or it's something. However, he's at a totally different vibration now. He's a different frequency. And he finds very quickly, caterpillars do discover that they can fly. And when they fly, they raise above the ground. They raise above the leaf. They can see the whole garden. They can see beyond the garden. They can see there's a whole universe of possibilities out there. And they also discover in that moment that everything they thought was important when they were in a caterpillar world and a caterpillar consciousness wasn't important at all. It may have been then, but it's not important to them now. It's not important to them at all. They're seeing it from a totally different perspective, a higher perspective. And now think about the butterfly. Not only can it fly around and see the world in a brand new way, but it doesn't eat, it doesn't consume. It can drink the nectar of the flower, but it doesn't destroy the flower when it does that. In fact, its legs are picking up pollen, and when it goes from flower to flower, it's actually creating life. And it also can mate with other butterflies, that's the only time it can, and create new life. So that when you're living at the caterpillar stage, the consumption stage, all you can do is eat and destroy. But when you have evolved into that butterfly being, into your spiritual being, now you're creating life. You're spreading joy. You are beautiful and you're light. You're light. You know, that butterfly flutters. It flutters by. That's really what it was originally, a flutterby. It flutters. It's lightweight. There's no heaviness about it. So then the question for us is, where do we want to live, right? And what do we do if we catch ourselves down in caterpillar thinking? Well, meditation, of course, is one thing we can do, but just about anything that will raise your vibrations, anything that will raise your frequency, runners talk about the runner high. I think I experienced that maybe once because I'm not a runner, but I was running. This was like 20 some years ago. Oh, 30 some years ago. I was actually running, and I just felt my whole body come alive, and I felt joyful, and I felt different in this physical form for a while. So I can only imagine what it's like when a runner runs long enough to shift into that higher frequency. There's so many things, so many ways, but the idea is to move into non-resistance, to move into a lighter frame of mind. To shift our state of consciousness, we can then come into alignment with what is, alignment with God consciousness. And in that frame of mind, we can assume, get that word, Beckwith used that word, Michael Beckwith, assume the state of abundance. Now, when you're in the caterpillar and you say, I am abundance, I am prosperous, I am all these things, many times you look at your book checkbook and you're going, no, I'm not, oh, I'm not, oh, I'm not. And so it seems like you're lying to yourself. But when you're up in the butterfly frequency and you say, I am abundance, I join with the state of abundance. I join with the frequency of abundance. I join with the frequency of belonging. I join with the frequency of perfect health. Or going along with one of my earlier talks, I am abundantly. I am abundantly. It makes so much sense when you're a butterfly. Doesn't make much sense when you're a caterpillar. So it's always a choice for us. Are we living in a caterpillar world of problems, or are we living in a butterfly world of possibilities? Now, if you're still thinking like the caterpillar walking along, even though you got your wings behind your back, but you're walking along the garden, and you can say, well, I'm not going to call them problems, I'm going to call them challenges. No, I'm going to call them possibilities. It's all wordplay. You need to change your consciousness. You need to lift your frequency. Then you see the possibilities. They're there. They're obvious. In that state of being, there are no problems. Problems dissolve as joy dissolves pain, as love dissolves fear. When you move into the butterfly consciousness, you dissolve problems. I mean, think about it. Does a butterfly care which leaf it lands on? It's not worried about eating it. All the problems the caterpillar had cease to be relevant to the butterfly. The butterfly's got new challenges and tons of possibilities around it. But the old life of the caterpillar means nothing. Eating means nothing. Gaining weight, I mean, it's lightweight. All the things the caterpillar was concerned about mean nothing to the butterfly. Old problems dissolve when you shift your consciousness, and it's our choice. Michael Beckwith says, we do not say that God is a problem solver. We say that in the mind of God, there are no problems, and in God consciousness, they dissolve. So then the idea is that we want to join into God consciousness. Now, Joe Dispenza is a scientist. Many of you have heard of him. He does lots and lots of workshops. People heal right and left in his workshops, all kinds of diseases and conditions. It's amazing. But they don't heal from the caterpillar to the caterpillar. What he says is matter to matter can take a long time. Chemo to cancer can take a long time if it succeeds in the first place. However, energy to matter can be instantaneous. Energy to matter can be instantaneous. Why? Because when you're here in butterfly consciousness, you've dissolved the problem. It doesn't exist. When you're caterpillar, you got a problem and you're solving the problem. Right? And it can be done. We do it all the time. But there's a simpler way if we choose it. So I wanted to finish with a little bit longer quote from Michael Beckwith, because I think that those of us that are studying religious science, those of us that are listening to Michael or Abraham or any of the other great teachers that are out there, anyone studying A Course in Miracles, you have made a decision that you want to become a butterfly, that you already are a butterfly. You're trying to shift that paradigm shift. You're trying to make that paradigm shift into butterfly consciousness. We're trying to remember. That's all it is. We're already there. We're trying to remember. So when we do that, when we're really interested in that and we're doing that and we're coming here every Saturday or Sunday or whenever, we become God's messengers. So this is Michael Beckwith's take on it. As we move into this higher perspective, we recognize that we are connected with each other at the very center of our being and embracing the entire planet. So that the world that God sees is having an entryway to express itself through us, right? Because the presence of God sent us and we accepted the being sent to represent this presence as only we can. As only we can, individually, uniquely, and together. And to be in concert with individuals that are waking up to waking up. Waking up to waking up. Being the game that we are playing on this planet. Not acquisition, not getting, not hoarding, but waking up to waking up. That right where we are is all the power and all the presence, all the love, all the joy, all the abundance. That we're here to circulate it and to express it and manifest it and reveal the realm of ever expanding good right here on earth, so that we're not playing pie in the sky when we die religiosity. We're playing heaven on earth until the earth becomes heaven, because we're here and we're awake and we are now. So it is. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.